Hi, guys. Welcome to the Real Food Recovery Podcast. We want you to know today that healing starts with safety. And yet, so many people in food addiction recovery are doing everything right with food while feeling anxious, inflamed, exhausted, or stuck in their bodies. Today's conversation gently widens the lens, and I'm joined by Jodi Scott, founder of Green Goo and a longtime voice in natural health. Her work spans clinical settings, academia, entrepreneurship, and lived experience with profound loss and rebuilding. This is not a conversation about adding more rules or protocol. It's about what happens when we begin with nervous system regulation, reduce hidden stressors, and shifting from control to presence. Together, we are going to explore how healing often comes not from doing more, but from creating safety, listening to the body, and allowing recovery to unfold from the inside out. Let me tell you a little bit more about Jodi Scott. She is the founder educator. She is a founder educator and nervous system informed wellness advocate with a pre-med background and a master's in health psychology. Yes, she co-founded Green Goo with her mom and sister after witnessing how real food, plant medicine, and removing synthetic inputs can help the body regulate and heal. Today, Jodi focuses on recovery through subtraction, less stimulation, fewer ultra-processed inputs, more presence, helping people reconnect with their body's innate capacity for balance, trust, and resilience. We are very excited and honored to have her here with us, and I am so excited about the conversation we're going to get into. But first, before we do that, I think our audience would like to know just a little bit more about you because there is something that brought you to this space, whether it's I like to ask the question if it was a light bulb moment or a dimmer switch process. What brought you to this interest in this area? What has driven you to do what you're doing? And most of all, welcome and glad you're here.
Thank you for having me. It's a treat to be here with you. So, I was a competitive athlete and I learned at a young age the connection between food and fuel and performance. And
Ah.
so that was at a time where my family were always on the go, going from swim meets, traveling all over the country, and really intense schedules. And so, and I mean like 5 o'clock in the morning to about the time you go to school, and then going and swimming again after school for 3 hours, and then traveling to races. So when I first started this, we were not eating well at all. It was
Mm-hmm.
fast food on the go. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember making a direct connection on a race. I had just eaten some Fun Dip and
Oh gosh.
I went, and that's what you did. You ate from the snack bar. And I
Uh-huh.
was going to do a race that I had every chance of winning. And that first lap, I was in first place and I was doing great. And I turned off that wall and I just felt my sugar drop. And it
Ooh.
dropped like a train wreck. Like I had hit a brick wall. And it was all I could do to get my arms over my head and in that water and finish that race. And I recognized how that like little sugar jump just dumped me in the water. And that started my curiosity when I saw that relationship. And then very quickly started feeling the relationship with food and performance. And I think that set the stage. I decided to become a vegetarian, didn't even know what that was. And I come from a big military family. And so when
Mm.
I came to the dinner table that night and I said, "Okay, I'm not eating meat." And my father looked at me like, "Who are you?" Like, not in
Yeah.
our family.
Mm-hmm.
And that prompted my parents sending me to a nutritionist. And so I then became very informed around nutrition. And it really changed our entire family because we went from ultra processed foods to making homemade foods as a family. And then fast forward, I go to college and I get a background in psychology and biology. And I learned of this new area called health psychology. And I'm like, how cool is this? Because I also saw the relationship of mindset and performance as a swimmer. And
Yeah.
I thought, oh my gosh, there's actually like one way to study this. So I started training resident physicians on the biopsychosocial model. And what that means in practice is rather than simply prescribing, let's ask more questions. Let's get more data points to help with a more holistic approach to healthcare because perhaps they can't pay their bills. Maybe they don't have family and they're lonely. What kind of stress are they experiencing? Are they sleeping? Because some of that intake could really help with the prescription that you are prescribing, and perhaps you have some other resources that you can help them with. And then I started looking into psychoneuroimmunology, and that was just the aha moment for me in pre-med. And at the time, there wasn't a whole lot of evidence that your psychology and your immune system and your nervous system were all connected. There's this correlational data, but we didn't have the science that we have today that's really proving that out. And so that started the foundation for when my mom, sister, and I decided to start Green Goo, and my sister is an herbalist. And I think it set the stage for that awareness of challenging what we were doing every day and saying, is there a different way? And I was pregnant at the time, and I went into my first aid cabinet and I had a cut. And first of all, my first aid cabinet was a disaster, which they all are. We're like, what is even living in here? And then I
Ah.
read the ingredients and I thought, here I've been living this really clean life, but why do I think this is okay? And I don't want to put this on while I'm pregnant. And I sure don't want to put this on my daughter. So I went back to my sister and I'm like, do you like, you're a real purist. What's your first aid cabinet look like? And she had all the same one-time chemical use products. And what we found is the natural consumer was willing to abandon their natural ethos because they were told these one-time use chemical laden solutions for wound care and first aid were the only solutions. If it didn't burn, sting, or dry your skin out, it wasn't doing its job.
Hmm.
And then we found chronic skin conditions are at an all-time high. And we thought, oh my gosh, you know, there's this efficacy issue with over the counter because of the chemicals and so forth, and used for 7 to 10 days, and you have to go see your physician. So everything kind of set the stage for us to just really lean in more and define and explore our relationship with what we were consuming and why, and the needs that we have as a part of our wellness journey.
I love that a word you said when you first started talking jumped out at me so much so that I wrote it down on my piece of paper. You said the word curiosity, and everything after that looped back to that curiosity nature that you shared to get you to where you are today. Don't you agree? Just,
And it doesn't stop. I love that you put a bow on that because oftentimes when I'm troubleshooting with my daughter, 14, that's where I go. I'm like, well, what can we be curious about here? Why do you
mm-hmm,
think the volleyball coach said this? Or why do you think the teacher and just
mm-hmm.
leaning in. So thank you. I really
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Yeah, and that gets you further faster, I think, than anything, whether versus like being defensive or uh, closed-minded or things like that. Just go, okay, let me just learn a little bit more, and maybe I'll change my opinion. Maybe I won't, but it's really a growth mindset to operate from that curiosity.
It
And
is. Can I add something to that?
yes,
Just
yeah,
because I think you really honed in on something. The difference between curiosity and judgment is judgment's very much in a state of fight or flight, which we're going to talk more about that.
yeah,
And curiosity is very much in a parasympathetic state.
that,
So what
yes,
you'll find is your body is in a much more calm, present
right.
state that
Mm-hmm.
allows you to access more ideas, more curiosity, more
Yeah.
innovation. So it's actually
Mm-hmm.
healthier for you.
Yeah, and we talk about the people we work with. It's almost like let's step out of your body and turn 180 degrees and let's just look at what's going on with curiosity instead of judgment. And you're right, it keeps the nervous system calm. Which, yeah, we'll talk more about that later. But the other thing I wanted to point out that I thought was so profound is the night that you came home and you said, I'm going to be a vegetarian and I'm not going to eat meat. You said it influenced everybody around me. And I appreciate people that have ideas because it kind of pulls other people along when you've done the work and looked into things, whether it be diet or lifestyle or education, anything like that. I think when we can be trailblazers and influence people with just exposure to new ideas. So I just loved that you put that down, that your influence changed some of the people in your family. And I think we all have this innate responsibility as we learn more about health to share what we know so that we can help the world on a bigger level if we look at it like that. Have you heard that saying, do you know how to change the world? You change yourself. And so, anyway, I just appreciated that you said you had become an influence to others. So, anyway, anything you want to say about that before I start drilling down on you a little bit with a few more discussion topics?
So much goodness. I love where you lean in. Well, the halo effect is real.
Mm.
And there is even science to support that neurons mirror neurons.
Oh,
And
totally.
that can work in favor for us and it can work against us. And so I really appreciate how you highlight the power that the individual has by just making the change within themselves. And the beauty of that is that when you start that positive change and you have that halo effect, it further reinforces you to continue on that positive
Totally.
journey because
Totally.
you're also feeding off of the positive reaction that the others are having
Hmm.
for the changes that they're making that complement and
Hmm.
mirror the life that you want to live.
Hmm. Totally. And I really do think even if you just influence one person in a positive manner, that's job well done.
Ripple
So,
effect.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, I agree with that. So, you often talk about recovery starting with removing ultra processed food, and you obviously have had a significant experience in your young life, and that's amazing that you put those dots together at such a young age. So, I'm very impressed with that. How old were you at the time?
12.
Yeah, amazing. So you saw what the sugary junkie processed stuff did. So from your perspective, how does the nervous system regulation fit into food addiction recovery? Because there's a big discussion now about is it really food addiction recovery, or some people like to say ultra processed food use disorder, or do we just focus on nervous system regulation? Which comes first, the chicken or the egg, and what will get us further down the road?
Oh, yes. So it's really interesting when you start this journey and you look at the inversion instead of looking outside at all the things and you start thinking about, well, how is my body responding internally to the external overload? And we know that our skin is not just the largest organ. So I'm going to just use the skin as such as a place mark for presence, right?
Yeah.
And it's in a constant state of alert. It is born from the same embryonic tissue as our nervous system, rich in neurotransmitters. So it is constantly signaling our body. And so we're already not in a state of calm parasympathetic present state because our skin is telling us, and we can talk more about why and what, but just using that as sort of an anchor. And and then what happens is your cortisol goes up, your inflammation goes up, and
Hmm.
then your serotonin goes down. You start not sleeping as well. Your body feels icky. You don't have good clarity. And then you're looking for that dopamine fix. And ultra processed food is a dopamine fix. And it
Hmm.
feeds that cycle. So then you're bringing in things that your body is having a more difficult time to process,
Oh,
which
totally.
increases the cortisol, increases the inflammation, and a number of others. And then your sleep, and then you just continuously are in this loop of fight or flight. And now I just need to have, and what's interesting too there is it puts you out of presence. And so now you are stressed, you're tired, you're overwhelmed. You don't have the acumen as well to really think about what you want. It's more impulsive, it's more reactive. And so then you're being inundated with all these options, maybe a commercial and or a Grubhub commercial, and you could get whatever it is that you
Yeah.
want or whatever's in your house. And then it continues to feed that vicious cycle. And when you're in a state of presence, you're able to kind of take a moment and say, does this serve me? Does this feel good? Because then all of a sudden you have the opposite effect. But it takes a moment for you to get to that place. So I just want to name it for this part of the conversation and we can move through how to get to that place. But just thinking about it for a moment in the day to day, how the thing that you decide to eat feels very much more than what your body's telling you that you want. It's this more of an emotional reaction, call it your nervous system reaction to say, this is what I need right now. And then you just get into this cycle.
And
Go ahead.
don't you think when you're dysregulated, you're more susceptible to these outside suggestions, like you said, Grubhub or whatever, when those cross your path, if you're not regulated, you're like, yeah, that does sound like a good idea right now. Versus if you were in this calm, relaxed state, you would have access to that frontal lobe thinking and the consequence center and braking system to go, sure, that might be feel good for a minute, but long term, that's gonna undo me by 3 o'clock.
And if you're being honest with yourself, when you make that decision, you're seeking relief. You're like, oh, this will
Right.
give me relief.
Mhm.
And when you think about it, that relief is really more this vicious cycle that your body's in already because
Mhm.
it's asking for that dopamine hit because of this vicious cycle that you're in already. And so it's just masking what your body really needs. But really, if we're getting real, it is what your body needs, right? Like you're looking for relief because you're dysregulated. So when you start spending time first getting regulated, don't worry about this other stuff for a minute and focus on getting regulated. It's like all of a sudden it feeds the wheel in a way that serves you.
Yeah, and so one of the things that we work on a lot with our clients is that you don't want to start looking for external sources for this inside job. So how can we turn and use some tools to turn inward when the answer is coming from this inner vessel for comfort or numbing, not numbing, but comfort.
Yes,
Comfort's
and
always what we're looking
in many ways
for.
it is numbing. It is numbing the system in some way, shape, or form. So it's almost like it's so overwhelming.
Yes.
Where do you start?
Yeah.
So, two tools that I think are going to be really helpful. One, we have an acronym that we use in our home, and it's called Shaman. And it's just really fun. And we did this actually for my 14-year-old to help her navigate the day to day. And so S is for sleep, making sure you're adding to the sleep bank. When my daughter can make the connection to not getting sleep and her mood, and I'm like, so how have you been sleeping the last couple of days? Oh, you're right. I need to invest in
Curiosity.
that.
See,
Yeah.
you approach with curiosity and it keeps her open, keeps the conversation open.
Yes, with her body, with her
Mm-hmm.
environment.
Mm-hmm.
And then H is hydration. And
Mm-hmm.
this is we are water. In order for us to stay regulated, we need to be hydrated. And that is not just by drinking water, but it's also, is that drink going to serve me? Is that going to pull hydration out of me? And there's a lot of beverages that are around us that are pulling water out of us. And when you just think of it that simple, when you're like, I'm going to go grab that soda, don't worry about the calories. I want you to worry about the hydration. That's actually pulling you out of regulation. And then there's foods that hydrate you, and there's foods that dehydrate you. Foods that are higher in salt. Maybe it's the carrots that you decide to pick instead. Something that has hydration in it. And when that little shift makes a difference. And even the skincare that you use, when you start thinking
Mm-hmm.
about external opportunities. A is antioxidants. And so instead of thinking about all like what I should eat, what I shouldn't eat, sometimes as simple as opening up the fridge and going, does it have antioxidants in it? Because antioxidants are going to help our body regulate. It's going to help the body give it the fuel that it needs. So it's like, well, maybe I should have those, berries and something fresh instead of the chips. Or maybe I'm going to have a little bit of both. but at least you're bringing in those antioxidants. You're giving your body the
Mm-hmm.
opportunity to fight. M is
Mm-hmm.
mindfulness, which we're going to talk more about. And I think that this is often overlooked in the wellness journey. And people think if I don't meditate for 2 hours, I'm not going to get the benefits of mindfulness.
That's
And
right.
mindfulness can be as simple as 30 seconds. It can
Mm-hmm.
be take your shoes off, put your feet on the ground, feel your feet on the ground. Go outside, look at the clouds for 30 seconds. Take a deep breath before you're going to sit down and have that meal. Just a couple deep breaths. Feel your body. And it's really leaning into the five senses. And I'm going to come back to that. But just thinking about, I'm going to practice more mindfulness throughout the day because the science supports you don't need the 2 hours. You can actually do micro moments throughout the day that
Mm-hmm.
compound, that bring you into that parasympathetic state, give you that reset so you can go do the next thing. And then all of a sudden, there's that clarity that we were talking about that allows you to have more of yourself and be more responsive instead of reactive. And then you're more in charge of those impulses. And then the next A is avoid. And I say that word avoid because we talk a lot about, we were talking about subtracting instead of like, I'm supposed to do all these things in my wellness journey. Well, if you just simply avoid throughout the day random things that aren't going to serve you, whether it's ingredients, food, um, people, situations, your energy becomes more expansive.
Totally.
Yes. And you start thinking about your energy in that way. And you also are like, this one, if you just avoid that one, like, I'm going to do the drive through, maybe not. Maybe I'm just going to avoid it this one time. Don't overwhelm yourself that you're going to avoid it every time,
I agree.
just in that moment. And those compound. And
Totally.
then the last N is nature, because nature will find a way to ground you so quickly. So rather than scrolling on that phone for 10 minutes, my daughter's like, all right, I actually recognize for 10 minutes, I'm going to go outside instead. When you're sitting and waiting for your kiddo to pick them up, maybe you take a little walk while you're waiting. Just give yourself little moments in nature. And that shaman is so simple and it's equitable because I think, again, some people think, well, if I don't sign up for this subscription, and if I don't sign up for this program, if I don't have access to this, I'm not going to be able to shift my wellness journey. And shaman just kind of like shifts you enough that all of a sudden you're into that curiosity state.
Hmm. Yeah, I love just moving the needle just a little bit. That's all you need to do is moving the needle. And I think action creates action or momentum creates momentum. And so it just naturally will start to well within you. As once you start seeing nice results and feeling better, you want more of that, right?
Exactly. Once you can get in your body, then you can start seeking your day to do more of that. And that's
Yeah.
where the mental fitness boot camp comes in. So this is separate from shaman, but leaning more into mindfulness. And this was one of the greatest gifts someone gave me. And a sidecar to this was we built our company really fast. I was in fight or flight all the time,
Hmm.
sold it. The people that we sold it to had horrible issues, legal issues. The whole company crumbled. I had less than 24 hours to fire my legacy team, lost everything. It was an absolute nightmare. And I had this coach who was like, "Well, how are you gonna what are you gonna do next?" I'm like, "I don't know. I have nothing. I don't know what to do. I feel overwhelmed about the future. I'm depressed about the past. Shoulda, woulda, coulda. I just feel horrible. I'm not sleeping. I'm just like so not in presence, right?" And he's like, and I was like, I mean, perfect world. I'd be able to buy my company back, but how am I ever going to do that? And he's like, okay, your mental fitness boot camp starts now. And I'm like, what does that have to do with anything? And he's like, I don't have the answers. You do. He's like, I need to get you into a place where you're mentally fit to figure it out and find out what that means. And he's like, the same way you go to the gym, you invest in your mental fitness. We're going to set your alarm every 3 hours and you're going to do a presence exercise. And I'm like, first you had me at set my alarm every 3 hours.
Right.
Like, who does that? I'm
Right.
busy.
Yeah.
And what is a presence exercise? And that comes back to the mindfulness. And he's like, we are going to focus on those five senses. but you're going to focus on one sense at a time in that 30 seconds. And you'll alternate and eventually get up to 2 minutes. And you're going to do that every 3 hours. And so it could be go outside and listen to the birds, go hear the furthest sound, hear the closest sound, and that's all you focus on. Or look at the clouds, like we were saying, or just focus on something visually, very intently, very far away, very close. Feel your muscles, touch, and going through that. Your breath, just have your breath for 30 seconds and focus on your breath. Let the thoughts kind of flow in and flow out. And so the first time I did this, my alarm went off. My husband's like, "Where are you going? Are you cooking something?" And I'm like, Timmy says I got to go outside and do a presence exercise. He's like, "What is that?" I'm like, "Right? What is that?" So he sees me take my shoes off. I go outside. He's like, "Okay, now she's really lost it. We lost the company. Like she has lost it."
Now she's going to get splinters.
Yeah, yeah. And it was so difficult that first 30 seconds. It felt like 5 minutes, felt like 20 minutes. And and every time I did it, it got easier and easier and easier. And then, a couple weeks into it, I was like, "Timmy, I got an idea." He's like, "What?" And I'm like, "I think this is my next first move in terms of how to buy the company back." And those ideas got stronger and clearer. I got stronger. I was able to put myself in difficult situations and be in the moment and have clarity. And that was one of those moments where I really saw the connection in everything when we are having a difficult time moving forward, or we're like, "Why did I make that decision?" And it's like when you can invest in your mental fitness, start there. Set the clock every 3 hours and start those presence exercises. And today I don't set the alarm every 3 hours. However, I recognize throughout the day when I start to get to that place where I'm just like back to the busy bee and I'm
Hmm.
impulsive and I'm in fight or flight and that nervous system is in charge. And I'm like, it's time to like reset for a second and get back to that moment. And in that moment, I'm able to make good decisions going forward, have some clarity, calm my body, get things in sync so that I am sleeping well, so that I am reducing my cortisol. I'm not looking for that dopamine hit. And it's interesting from a food consumption standpoint and even like a consumption standpoint in general. All of a sudden you're like, "I don't really need to buy that. Like I'm good. I am good in this moment." And then also, if there is something it's really important and you've kind of like done that self audit within yourself. And there's so much power in the presence, and your body thanks you for it. You get the physiological
Totally.
response you're looking for.
Well, it goes back to that principle that a calm brain doesn't crave, right? So that's so much of the work that we do with people is making sure that we are in a calm state because impulse control is the death. It can be the death of all of us if we don't have impulse control, and that comes from working in a very calm manner. And I love the idea. I heard a podcast recently about exercise snacks. If you're someone who can't do a hour workout, can you do 5 or 10 minutes throughout the day? And your principle is the same as that. Just they're mindfulness snacks that you're taking all throughout the day. And actually, I'm wondering if that's more mentally powerful than doing one exercise in the morning and then being done for the day. But constantly like rewiring these deep grooves, those neural pathways of you're becoming familiar with these exercises and they're becoming more of who you are and your identity is shifting and you're looking forward to these and you're appreciating the rewards that you're getting, that it just puts you in such a powerful position that you understand you have more control over your mind and your decisions than you ever realized.
I love mindfulness snacks. I wrote that down. That's so good.
We need to cross stitch that on a pillow or
It's
something.
so good.
Make
So,
t-shirts.
yes. And I think, if you're hearing this today, the same way I heard it when Timmy first presented it to me, it is so overwhelming. You're like, "That's great. I can tell my mind to do a thing." And you're like, I don't get it. I don't understand how I can do that. I keep trying to tell my mind. And I think we've just gone about it wrong because we think we're doing these exercises and it's just, I tell my daughter, like, invest in that muscle. It's those five senses that do that rewiring that you're referencing. It's
Hmm.
not the same way of thinking that we're used to. And the unlock for me was, oh, that's how I get to that place of the Jedi mind, having more awareness and control. It isn't me trying to control the brain, it is me literally doing these mental fitness exercises with the senses that then create those neural pathways and are in alignment with my other systems to allow that to prosper in the way that it does. And it was so interesting to experience it. So if you're feeling like, okay, I can't, I still don't get it, just set the alarm and do that and see what happens. And all of a sudden, it's like you shift and you're like, that's it. Who'd have thought?
Hmm. Yeah, I love all of this because it just points right back to impulse control. We have four foundational cornerstones that we practice with our members, and that's food, single ingredient food, sleep, movement, and spirituality. So it sounds like it's very similar to the things that you are talking about that complement that mindset that you're talking about. And I find that when you get those four things in order, that there's just a natural calming to the brain, and then we see what we're left with, really, because how can you really know what the real issues are if your food, if you're living off processed food, if your sleep, if you're getting 6 hours of sleep a night, if you're not moving your body at all, if there's no spiritual basis, or you can call it a mindfulness basis in your life, then you feel some stuff, but you can't really put your finger on it. So if you start working on those four things, that you start clearing up a lot of the clutter and see what you're really left with that you need to focus on. But I don't know how you can know what you need to focus on until you get a few of those things
So true.
in
And I
in
love,
control.
yes. And I love how you touch on spirituality. So I was at this conscious capitalism leadership workshop and they had various panelists and they were talking about different ways we can access high performance. And then the last speaker came up and he goes, it's really great. You guys, I think there's some really great tools here that give you some insights on how you can be a high performer in a conscious state. He's like, I'm going to put a bow on it. And he's like, presence is prayer. And if you can live as much as possible throughout your day in a state of prayer, then you are in presence. And I was
Mhm.
like, oh my gosh, that's it. And if you think about when you're just like washing your hands and going throughout the day, that feeling you have when you're in a state of prayer, if you can bring that forward. And I often use the analogy, you go on vacation and you're like, this feels so good. I should do this more often. Well, be a tourist in your own home, be a tourist in your own body. Bring that state of prayer in that same way throughout the things you're doing all day long. You don't have to stop what you're doing. And I think people will say, well, I don't have time for this. And it's really shifting that mindset because when you feel what that feels like in those 3 hour increments, you will start to integrate that when you're washing your hands, when you're going to pick your child up from school. Instead of being stuck in your head, you're like, I'm actually just going to look at the horizon. I'm going to look at the things that are around me instead. Or you're visiting with another person, and instead of being stuck in your head, you're like, I'm just going to really be present with them and look at how lovely they are. And all of a sudden things change in your body and also how you approach the rest of the day. And it brings gratitude, it brings curiosity. And then that changes your relationship with food real quick. Because all of a sudden, if you take a couple of deep breaths before you eat, you're paying attention to the texture, you're having gratitude for it, you're appreciating it. It's like you feel your body like, I'm full now. Thank you. That was good. And then the choices you make, it's just a whole different way of being in a relationship with your body and what is around you.
Don't you think we have so much more capabilities and capacity in our minds than we ever give ourselves credit for?
We do. And I think oftentimes we've been trained to have this relationship with our mind in sort of the inverse. And so it's like the mind is here and the body is here,
Yeah.
and they're just so separate. And yet, again, like our skin is born from the same embryonic tissue as our nervous system. It's rich in neurotransmitters. Those neurotransmitters go to our brain. They release the chemicals that tell us how we feel, how we think. And so when you can think about manipulating that in a way that serves you, all of a sudden, like you have clarity, your mindset shifts. And then you make
Mhm.
decisions that make you happier with who you are. It's like you're showing up as your authentic self.
Yeah, I agree with that completely, which is why that we put spirituality as one of our cornerstone or foundational pillars, because that you need a source to turn to when life kicks you in the teeth, and it will. You need a place to turn to for comfort that's coming from within and some type of higher power. And we don't push religion, but just whatever spirituality looks like to you, to find that place of peace in your mind. I just think so many people at first sight, when they come up to a challenge, they're like, oh, I can't do that. Oh, no, I can't do that. You, you're just not giving yourself enough credit for what you really are capable of doing it. And you do need a mindset as your cheering team saying, yes, you can. Let's slow it down. Let's calm things down. And let's eat this elephant one bite at a time. And, but you do need to be in a mindset that I'm capable and confident to do that. And a dysregulated nervous system ain't going to get the job done.
No, and there's so many little things that you can do throughout the day to shift that dysregulation for you to improve that mindset
Do
so
you
that
want to
you
talk
can
about
be in
that?
that state of prayer. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I mean, of course, I'll from a skin perspective, this just gives you another example. When you're thinking of shaman and you're thinking of setting your alarm every 3 hours, another one is our chemical load. So think about all the parabens, the petroleum, the phthalates that we're putting on our skin. And no one meant to hurt anyone. The Industrial Revolution was born from, oh my gosh, we can make volumes of consumer packaged goods and get them to everyone. So ultra processed food was born, lotions, all of these things fill, and there was more volume meant more value. So let's make sure we pack it in. So that's where some of these synthetic man-made ingredients came from. We also didn't have the infrastructure or the technology or Amazon for, for heaven's sake. So things were going to take a couple years before they got to someone's door. So yeah, we had to put a lot of preservatives in it. And, there was this time in the last 20 years where there was the maybe these things are harmful for us. We're not really sure. It's just those natural people are starting to think that there is, but we didn't have the science behind it. And we do today. And without a shadow of a doubt, these ingredients are harming our bodies. And and now we can start making those choices. Phthalates is the number one produced man-made chemical. We produce 1 billion pounds of those a year, and it's an endocrine disruptor, and it is telling our body we're in a state of fight or flight. So perfect example, you put that on your skin, and so then that gets absorbed, and then the inflammation goes up, the cortisol goes up, you don't sleep, serotonin goes down, you're looking for that dopamine hit. I'm going to go ahead and eat that crummy food, and then you just keep that cycle. So as simple as cleaning up your skincare and avoiding those chemicals is bringing you to a state of presence. It is contributing to your wellness journey. And that was a big part of us in starting Green Goo, was like, we can prove that these plants can work and that they work well with your body. And that's a part of even the food journey, is that we know as well that these foods, they complement our systems. They stimulate our body to know what it already knows how to do. And We want to put our bodies into an optimal state of performance just for health
Hmm.
purposes. And it used to be if you ate healthy or you used natural products, it was a compromise. And I love today that it's proving that your system will actually be in better shape. And let me tell you, that's so important because when you do need Western medicine, same way you need prayer, it's a good thing we have it. And a doctor loves to work on a healthy patient. So if you
Yeah.
can show up in a healthier form, you are going to have a better outcome. You're going to have better results.
Yeah, I love that. You've worked in clinical and academic health settings. And so, from your experience, what do you think is the reason that so many people stay stuck in these cycles of dysregulation, cravings, and shame? And then, what can we do? What's one step to start pulling out of that?
And shame is part of that cycle too, because if you think about how shame converts metabolically, it influences your sleep, it reduces your serotonin, and then you look for that dopamine fix, and then you find the thing that doesn't serve you. And so it just layers on to that. And I think that I remember my grandmother giving me a hard time when I was like first starting this wellness journey. And I said, Grandma, you didn't grow up around all these processed
Mm-hmm.
foods and how things change shape. And so this stuff hasn't really been around that long. And we just thought we were producing some really cool stuff that humans would like to buy. And that's where the money is. That's where the research is. I'll never
Oh,
forget.
totally follow the money.
Yes, I remember when I was training a physician. We just had lunch with a group of pharmaceuticals, and then they decided that they were going to move forward with endorsing a specific medication. And I said, "Well, I want to understand more. What was so compelling in that discussion?" And they said, "Well, the research said." And I said, "Well, let's back this up. Who funded the research?" And let's look at what statistical information do they really have, because you can pick and choose these things pretty easily to persuade where this data is going. And he was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh my gosh. And so no one meant, again, I don't think anyone meant to hurt anyone. Just a part of capitalism. It is a part of our system. And so it's just what we know. And we're just stuck in this cycle. And so I really think that's, again, going back to when you can start regulating your system, avoid some of these ingredients that aren't serving you, get to a place of presence and continue to invest in your mindset. You'll all of a sudden, you'll want to invest in your physical and mental health because you just feel so great. There is nothing better than that. You will have that halo effect in your family. Everyone else will want to start doing that. People will see and feel the results. The economy and what becomes available will change. The natural channel is the fastest growing channel in consumer packaged goods for a reason, because people are voting to make that change. So,
Mm-hmm.
this is just a part of the shift, I think, of humanity making that connection of longevity and wellness and happiness, because when you feel good, it's really nice.
Yeah, it's better, right, than the opposite.
It is. It is. It really
Do
is.
do you have a quick go-to as far as regulating your nervous system that you're in the grocery store or you're in a meeting or I don't know, at the gym? Do you have any standard go-tos that you can quickly calm yourself down?
So for me is breath. Like
Yeah.
if I can just take a deep breath and then just kind of feel my feet on the ground. So it's breath and touch gets me there very quickly. It's funny, you'll appreciate this. My daughter the other day, her teacher was like, I need to talk to you about the exam you just took. And she's like, oh my gosh, I'm in so much trouble. He's like, I want to applaud you for how you took the test. And she just kind of was taken back. And he says, you rubbed your fingertips together, which I found very interesting, and you took a couple deep breaths. He goes, you got in the moment. And then you went and you worked through the test and you got through what you did know. And then you took a couple deep breaths and went back and you used what you knew from the problems you did know to help you get through the things you didn't know. And I thought you did a really great job and you're really present for that test. She goes, Mom, it was like I was talking to you. And what I love about that is also that halo effect again of those tools that people will use around you. And if your children can acquire these tools, because again, being overwhelmed and all of a sudden you're not in that grocery store where you're just like, I want this, I want this. I'm like, okay, what do I need? What's going to feel good? And then you leave and you're like, wow, I spent a quarter of what I was gonna spend. I love as I'm unloading my groceries how it looks and how it feels. There are reasons antioxidants actually have the the colors in our fruit and vegetables. When you visually look at them, they actually have a positive impact on your nervous system. There's a reason why there was food dyes put into our food because
Ah.
it's innate. We're animals and we know that this thing is good for us. And I also see that in the
Hmm.
aging industry as well. So we just found a study that calendula flowers actually in your epidermal layer stimulate the enzyme that regenerates your telomeres. So your telomeres are the end caps of your DNA that measure your longevity. So now we can prove that a plant has the ability to go through your skin where that enzyme exists that's connected to your longevity, which is the thing that's going to unlock your wellness. So I think we know that when we see someone with glowing skin, that they look healthy. It's just the marketing was like, I'm going to sell you on some things, because we want to sell you something that's going to make you feel that way. But at the end of the day, I think we innately know that that glow is a place of sanctuary. It's a place of presence. It's a place of health and happiness, and that's what we desire.
Yeah, I love your point about the brightly colored foods, the natural foods and all their rainbow of colors. Because when I go grocery shopping and I come home and I put it in my refrigerator, I just feel so uppity when I see, my blueberries, my pineapple, my spinach leaves, my apples. I mean, I do my red or purple cabbage. I've got all those colors in there just waiting for my week. It's just screaming nutrition. It's screaming, thank you for taking care of me. I appreciate it. And I look forward to turning those into salads or snacks or things like that. And yeah, like I said, I
And
do just feel uppity.
yes, and that's a presence exercise, right? Like just
Mhm.
unloading those groceries and like appreciating the color and appreciating the texture. You're still getting your groceries. You're not stopping what you're doing. You're just being more intentional in that moment.
I want to take a picture of it and put it on social media, is what I want to do.
Yes,
Look at my
as you should.
refrigerator, everybody. Like you said, the halo effect.
Yes, I would love to see that. I love looking at people's refrigerators. It's one of my favorite things to do.
Okay, I'm going to text you a picture later.
Please do.
But it's like artwork to me. When I see all
Hmm.
those colors, it really actually does look like a painting. It
Yes.
just draws me in. Um, so, is there some big place that you would tell people who want to start working on building a more powerful, regulated nervous system? Because I think we've decided that it is integral in healing, especially with ultra processed food use disorder, to start there. It's really helpful to start there versus what diet should I be on? That ain't it. Because that's actually when you hit people with diet, I think it keeps people stirred up in the nervous system versus calming. So if we can start in, I think, a more productive way with calming the nervous system, is there a place that you think people could start without feeling overwhelmed? Because I don't want people to feel overwhelmed like, oh gosh, I'm far behind on regulating myself and I don't know what to do and I'm so overwhelmed I want to do nothing and just pretend I never heard this conversation. But what's a simple place to get started without overwhelm?
I really truly believe anchoring yourself in the shaman acronym and start practicing that every day so you can start feeling in your body. I also truly recommend setting that alarm clock, doing that every 3 hours, again, starting to build that mental fitness. There are some great resources around positive intelligence that is a wonderful resource that mirrors a lot of this in terms of investing in your mental fitness. Because I think, again, part of this wellness journey, like you said, we're so focused on the fad diet. We're so focused on what we
Oh
should eat, we
yeah.
shouldn't eat. And it's very much like overwhelming, overstimulating. We're still bringing in the shame. And it's like, perhaps let's just let that rest for a minute. And let's shift that. Let's focus on those five senses and building that part of you so that you can have a more holistic approach, and then you can revisit some of these fun facts that we know about which foods can serve you. And I would bet pretty quickly you're going to see some shifts faster than you expect.
Yeah, and I love how, a lot of people in food addiction recovery talk about willpower rules or eliminating trigger foods, but you really emphasize presence instead and starting from that perspective of practicing presence and use that as a greater supportive tool in recovery from food addiction. And I think that has more power than this control based approach.
Yes, I think taking the word discipline out and inserting that with presence is the unlock. And then
Mhm.
from there, your vagal nerve gets really happy, your parasympathetic, system is in sync, and you're just letting things get real aligned. And then that pressure is gone, and then that curiosity seeps in.
Mhm. I want to be respectful of your time and give you the last few minutes to talk about your company, Green Goo, a little bit. And let's talk about how skin health intersects with food recovery and nervous system repair, and maybe why skin is often an overlooked source of chemical stress. You want to do that?
Yeah, well, and as we touched on earlier, in terms of our skin is not just the largest organ, it is your first responder. And it
Yeah.
is in a general state of fight or flight because of everything
Hmm.
around. Like I tell my daughter, when you're scrolling on your phone, believe it or not, you're stimulating your skin. You'd never think you're like, oh, I'm stimulating my eyes or my brain. You're also stimulating your skin. And it's a part of that response that we talked about, that loop. And so it's a perfect example of how important it is to avoid those ingredients, the harmful ones, the phthalates, the parabens, the petroleums, but then also feed your skin the nutrients. So at Green Goo, we still make the ingredients ourselves. So the same way you have whole foods, we have whole plants. We bring the plants to our manufacturing facility. We take it through this unique extraction process that protects the integrity of the plant. So, a lot of the plants that you get in skincare today have been exposed to high heat or alcohol or chemicals that have denatured that botanical profile. So, we protect that. So, you're getting that whole food, that rich, rich medicinal profile. And then those custom oils go into these formulas, and they're with plant-based oils. So, rather than sort of that petroleum ingredient that really suffocates the skin and leaves any medicinal properties on the surface, these plant-based oils absorb all of these nutrients. And so one of my favorite things to do, I mean, first, throw everything out of your first aid cabinet, replace it with some green goo. You'll have everything you need as it relates to first aid. But then next step is think about nutritional skincare. One of my favorite mindful exercises is Sanctuary Sunday. And I take one of my favorite balms. Maybe I do the anti-inflammatory one because managing inflammation is part of your wellness journey. Because again, when you're inflamed, then you have the cortisol go up and you can't sleep. So instead of thinking of, oh, I'm just going to have a pain relief solution after an injury or after a workout, I'll do it before I travel, and I'll put the salve from head to toe. So Sanctuary Sunday, pick the salve you want, head to toe, put your bathrobe on, and just let your skin drink up all of that nutrition. And read a book, sit outside, listen to the birds, have a wonderful conversation with someone. Be really present for that 30 minutes, prayer. And then get ready for the day, or maybe it's the end of the day and put on your PJs, head to bed. You will sleep better. You will feel different. And when you make your skin a part of your nutritional journey, it also impacts the decisions you make later because it helps shift you. It's part of that journey of getting you into presence because you feel so good. The last thing you want to do is like, I don't know, eat something that doesn't feel so good. And then you're like, I think I'm going to choose that instead because it's like feeling at the spa, feeling like you're on vacation all day long. Why can't you feel that? Why shouldn't you feel that?
Beautiful. I love that. Do you want to tell people where they can find you? And I can also put that in the show notes too.
Yes, greengoo.com. So greengoo.com and Amazon, those are the best places to find us.
Do you want to do a quick, brief overview of the different? You don't have to go into every product detail, but maybe you've got a few highlights that you want to share with people.
Yeah, very quickly, my recommendation is the first aid bundle, and that gives you everything you need for your first aid cabinet. There is a burn and scar anti-aging solution that is your lotion alternative head to toe. There's your first aid, but it is your portable first aid kit. So it is bug bites, bee stings, poison ivy, cuts, scrapes, lacerations, ingrown toenails, chafing, all in one little jar. We have the dry skin formula. John Hopkins has been using that in their scleroderma and skin condition department for over a decade. It is your hydrocortisone alternative and wonderful for chronic dry skin. And then there's the pain relief, which is your anti-inflammatory. And those are your four core for first aid. If you're looking for more anti-aging, it would be the Glow and Renew bundle. And that's the repair again, the burn and scar, which is your anti-aging head to toe, nighttime salve, and then an oil face wash, which is really fun. Stop using soap. You're stripping all the microbiome. And then this beautiful vitamin C serum that is just rich in antioxidants. That's delightful that you can put on or after your repair.
Wonderful. I love that. Any last words that you would want to say to people out there that are struggling with breaking the cycle of uh, relying on processed foods for comfort or solving solutions in their life versus turning to inside sources?
Don't wait for presents. It is the greatest gift and it is equitable and it is attainable. It is just a choice. So go get it and just see the impact it has on you and everyone around you.
I love it. Thank you so much. You've been a wonderful guest. Just this hour's flown by. You've just been a real delight, and I appreciate you coming and spending time with us. And if you want to find out more about us, you can find us at realfoodrecovery4u.com. That's the number four and the letter U. And our book, Real Food Recovery, If Food Isn't the Answer, What's the Question, can be found on Amazon today. Thanks so much, guys. See you next time. Bye bye.